know about slavery, but few discuss paper genocide. We did not all come from Africa, and most of us have Aboriginal roots that were stripped away due to reclassification and miseducation. As a Native Black American and a member of the Muscogee Creek Nation, I understand the importance of tracing your lineage. If you want to learn how to trace your genealogy and apply for tribal citizenship, send an email to mike@keymediapro.com to schedule a consultation.
I'm from Maryland, by the way, and there's a large population of Africans, so I've ran into a lot of Africans. Why do Africans have the perceptions that Americans are lazy? And another question is, why do Africans think African Americans have no culture?
So Americans in general being lazy, or African Americans being lazy, or both? It's both, yeah. Yeah, y'all there is a thing here that Americans, Americans are lazy. That's a thing. Y'all kind of look down, it's a thing, right? She's saying it's a thing. I'm like, man, I've been around the block.
Have any of you felt or heard about in your families, felt any animosity from African Americans or the Black community?
Yeah, any animosity or jealousy or, from the African American communities, right? Who see you as somehow special or something, I don't know.
Animosity, no, but kind of feeling left out, not being able to connect with them, just feeling like I could never belong in their community sometimes.
Yeah. Once they find out you're Nigerian?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So you guys all identify as African, and as maybe some of you as American at the end, smart? Yeah. I'm assuming you all identify as American as well, from Philly, right?
Well, hang on. Use the mic, dude.
Yeah, so to answer your question, I I have multiple parts of my identity, and I identify with it, in different ways. But tell me a little bit about what you're thinking behind your question.
So my question is kind of generic. How long do you have to be somewhere? How far down the line do you have to go that you no longer are part of where you're from, and you've now picked up a new identity? So my parents came from Greece, but I consider myself American first, Greek second. How long? So if I went to Africa, how long would I have to stay there and build a family and become part of the culture until I'm African? Or am I never African and I'm always an outsider? Or do you guys always feel like outsiders and you never fully integrate into your new society? So
say the African American experience?
Yeah,
what
just African Americans. You look at the data that we have, right? Both education, poverty, crime, the things that are higher, right? And
when it comes to the education, we don't really, I don't know, we can't, I don't want to say we can't relate, but
I offer personalized one-on-one genealogy consultations for $75, but understanding that times are tough, from hurricanes to rising prices, I wanted to find a way to help further. In honor of Indigenous Peoples Day, I'm offering a special opportunity this week, a group consultation for just $35 for those who may not be able to book a one-on-one consultation. You'll still receive the same valuable information as in a private meeting. The only difference is that you'll be learning and asking questions in a group setting with fellow participants on a virtual call. To schedule a $35 group consultation, please email mike@keymediapro.com and include group consultation in the subject line. Looking forward to connecting with you.
What is the lesson? What is this telling us?
Well, there are several things that are significant about it. Of course, one of them is the way that colonialism tries to develop all kinds of elaborate classification terms for different kinds of people. But that's another subject. The most significant thing here is to reveal the much greater amounts of Native American ancestry that are present within the African American population than most people realize, because they might have been misled by the use of terms like mulatto and also people of color. Colored people included Native Americans, for example, in the United States area.
They don't want you to remember this. You not no slave, you indigenous. Fuck how they painted them Indians. You went to war with the French and the British, man. Quite frankly, you was kings, Merovingians. They took the women and men, made them prisoners, raised up the children to worship their images, set up a lab to the genes and they mixed them, and this shit get way deeper than your pigment.
All right. Hit the like button on the way in. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to the program. And let's get on with the content. We've got several Africans at some university lecture. And for some reason, we got some white professor doing a bit of instigating. He's going to ask the Africans about Black Americans. I mean, there was barely any Black Americans present at all. But we got white people and Africans speaking for us. Let's go ahead and take a look.
Everywhere else, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. How about you? What's like something that you wish you would want people to understand?
I mean, there's a lot, and I think first and foremost, like Africa is a continent, and it's important to say that because a lot of people they'll be like, oh, you know, I was like, I've been to France, I've been to this, I've been to that, and I've been to Africa. I'm like, all right, but where in Africa, right? First thing, it's a continent, and it has so many.
Why do you guys keep repeating that? We know it's a continent. We know it's a continent filled with shithole countries. It's an unstable third world continent.
Diverse countries, cultures, and peoples. That's like a huge thing. Another thing is a lot of people think that there is no culture and that there is no history when it comes to the cultures and the countries in the African continent. And that
no one says Africans don't have culture and history. You have a culture and history of warring with one another's and enslaving your own people to sell to foreigners. So, yeah, it's an interesting culture and history you have there.
That's just simply not true. And I wish people knew about how much the Western world has systematically erased and brainwashed people into viewing Africa through a particular lens that leaves us so ignorant as to its possibilities and its history. That's what I wish that people knew.
Yeah?
Yes, guys, do we really expect anything less from the mainstream academia system? We got a white dude who's going to gaslight Black Americans about Africans. Like, I think there's maybe 2 Black Americans in the audience. This is mostly a white school, and he's going to bring 5 Africans on stage to gossip about Black Americans. Okay. All right. Is this African studies? What's going on?
Okay. All right. That's a dude. You
start.
could go on, man. So, I think that. So one of the things that this is a question for all of you. Sometimes try to pull you aside and be like, "Hey, listen, man. This is how you're going to have to deal with race in the United States because they saw you as one of them, and meanwhile, you're not really seeing yourselves as one of them because you're Liberian, you're Nigerian, you're Sierra Leonean." Can you just walk into that a little bit? I just wonder how that, because Europeans have the same thing, right? Europeans come here, and they are just immediately seen as white Americans, and Europeans are like, yo, hang on, man. I'm German, actually. I'm not white, or I'm British. I'm not white.
Yeah, no, that doesn't happen. When Europeans immigrate to America, they just call themselves a white American. They don't stop you and say, "Oh no, I'm German." Oh no, they don't do that. They assimilate into dominant society. They assimilate into the local race hierarchy.
So don't tell me about white people and what it's like to be white, because I'm not white. I'm German. I'm like kind of thing, you know.
For us, like we don't care. Like, well, speaking from my country.
Yeah. And you can just speak for yourself and your experience.
Yeah, for me, like I didn't care about like being like seen. When I first came here, like I said, we don't have like the races, like different races and all that kind of stuff. It was just African people, and like
No, that's a lie. It's not just African people. Africans on the continent of Africa don't just view everybody colloquially as African people. You guys commit genocide, butcher, and war with one another based off of tribal territories. You don't even identify as African. You identify with your country or your tribe. But look at them in front of the white man, in front of the college class, going lie and say, oh, no, we just all see each other as Africans. Then why is there like half a dozen civil wars going on in Africa right now? Why is there such a crisis going on in South Sudan right now if you guys just all see yourself as Africans and you're all kumbaya? Stop the cap, lady. Stop it.
Millions of people across southern Africa are facing the worst food crisis in decades. That's according to the World Food Programme on Tuesday. The UN agency warned that its ability to provide relief hangs in the balance due to funding shortfalls. There are unprecedented drought conditions in a record 5 countries: Lesotho, Malawi, Namibia, Zambia and Zimbabwe. The agency has declared a state of disaster and called for international humanitarian support. WFP's regional officer, Thompson Fury, said this major issue could deepen into a, quote, full-scale humanitarian crisis.
Millions of people risk going hungry as Southern Africa enters lean season. The United Nations World Food Programme is today calling.
Damn, they got a continent filled with so many different countries and they can't even feed themselves. She wants to tell us they all view themselves as Africans, but we got 5 African nations that are dying from drought and famine, and all the other African nations are hiding like Wakanda in the cuts. Say it ain't so.
I didn't like see like them and an us. I think it was told to me by like a lot of black people that I met that they're black, you know, and I was like, oh, I'm not African, I'm black, you know.
Got you. Okay. You had to be. You were being reminded of where you fit in the hierarchy here in the U.S.
Yeah.
Okay. How about the two of you? Do you have? What would you say about that? Like being like this balance of being Nigerian, but being black in America, and it's like kind of like they're very different things. You know. What would you? Some thoughts on that?
I mean, being Black American is different than just being African. I don't see, like, when like she said, I'm not saying like, oh, you're Black American, I'm not, so I'm not, it's not like I'm trying to say, it's not like I'm like aware of that, I'm like hyper aware of it, it's just something that's like whatever, like, you know, we all look the same, so I'm not gonna be like, oh, since you're not like me, I'm like better or you know, than you in any way.
But there is that kind of separation piece.
Yeah.
Because you have this other culture that's.
Yeah.
So now you have Nigerian culture and you have U.S. American culture, and so you've got these two. You're like this dual culture person. How about like how do Nigerians talk about Black Americans? Like, how do Nigerians, for example, this is a complicated.
Damn, it got real quiet, didn't it, guys? Online, they're so vocal. They'll call us Yankee Akatas and we're degenerate gangbanger baby mamas. But when the white man asks him in front of the class, what did the Nigerians say about us? Damn, we hear crickets. Absolute silence.
Complicated question. And Will, you can jump in, but let them try to answer it first, right? When we look at some of the statistics and data on just like poverty, you know, the Black experience in the U.S., right? Because Africans can be very conservative, by the way, right? But by the way, Black people are very conservative.
Yeah, white man, calm down, lumping Africans into the same group as Native Black Americans. You see how he did that? Africans are quite conservative. Wait, Black people are quite conservative. They're not like us and we're not like them. Stop it. And how conservative are the Africans when the ones that immigrate here, the men especially, most of them are homosexual? That's not very conservative. Man's right there, the light-skinned Nigerian in the glasses, he's zesty as all hell can be. That's not conservative.
In the true meaning of what conservative is, Black people, in many ways, here in the U.S., are the most conservative people in the U.S. And all you have to do, in the classic way of thinking about conservatism, right? All you have to do is go to a Black church on a Sunday
Okay,
morning.
white man. Yes, you know so much about our culture, white man. Oh Lord, the white professor is just speaking for us because there's no Black Americans in the audience to rep for us. The white man knows about the hot comb feeling on your head on a Sunday morning. Okay. Okay. And Shadow Priest was asking if this was a recent video. Yes, this was published 4 weeks ago, so rather recent.
Of course, it's going to take like 2 hours or sometimes 3 or 4 hours of your time, but it's entertaining. It's interesting, right? And what you're going to hear is a singular message over and over again. And the message is, take responsibility for yourself. If you screw up, it's nobody's fault but yours. You have to make it happen. It's on your shoulders. You are responsible not just for yourself.
So the white man is just up here speaking on behalf of Africans and Black Americans right now.
But also your family. No excuses. This is just the message, man. If I could lay out the message of Black ministers and pastors, that is the fundamental core of every single Sunday sermon. And that's ultimate conservatism, because it's about the individual is responsible. The individual has to do it. So I'm just wondering, how do people talk about just the African American experience compared to, because Africans have a different experience. Do you have anything on that you could say? Will, do you have? Yeah, go ahead.
Say the African American experience.
Yeah,
what
just
do you
African
mean?
Americans. You look at the data.
Damn, she said, "What do you mean?" I thought they're so educated. He says, "Hey, what's your thought on the African American experience?" The African American, but what do you, their experience? Like they experience things? Like they have a history here? Like what? They're not immigrants like us, huh?
That we have, right? Both education, poverty, crime, the things that are higher, right? And
I mean, when it comes to the education, we don't really, I don't know, we can't, I don't want to say we can't relate, but it's not every African is doing well, but when we come here, we expect to it's instilled in us to
because you're immigrants.
School, exactly. School, you come from a place that doesn't have as much opportunities. When you come to the U.S., has a lot of opportunities. When we come here, it's school is your number one priority. That's.
So we're gonna go on to that on the next slide. But are there are there stereotypes? Do you see stereotypes from the Nigerian community? Will, you could, yeah.
I would say some
The white man knows about the stereotypes, but the Africans don't want to speak on it, y'all. Check it out. Even the white man knows how the Africans are xenophobic and hate Black Americans, but the Africans are acting like they never heard. Oh no, stereotype. What's that? Can you use that in a sentence, please?
stereotypes is that Nigerian parents are very strict,
Yeah.
which is true.
No, the stereotype with Nigerians that you guys are fucking scammers.
Money is the root of all evil, and some people will do anything to get it. Among these people are a group of young men, aged between 22 to 29 years old, infamously known as the Yahoo Boys.
80 people in all, most of them from Nigeria.
Well, prosecutors say the defendants preyed on everyone, from people looking for romance to businesses and the elderly.
Their world is a perfect example of how far people will go for the sake of wealth. These cyber criminals have mastered the art of fraud.
Day for two Nigerian brothers charged in a sextortion case that led to a Marquette teenager taking his own life. Now, both men will spend more than 17 years in prison for their roles in the online scheme. Thanks for joining us. I'm Damon Fernandez in for Devin Skillian.
I'm Kimberly Gill. 17-year-old Jordan DeMay sent sexually explicit images on Instagram to who he thought was a girl. When he couldn't pay $1,000 the crooks were asking for to keep the photos a secret, he committed suicide. I spoke with his mother today after the hearing. Tell me what your reaction is to the sentencing today.
Today was really a landmark day and that
Yeah, y'all are such degenerate fucking scammers. Y'all will sextort minor American children to the point where they take their own life. Damn. That's what you Nigerians are known for. Scamming.
My experience. And, you know, they really try to emphasize education, which my parents also do. School comes first before anything else.
Yep.
I would say stereotypes related to that, yes. So.
All right. So let me ask. Well, let me.
So the Nigerians have never heard the stereotype of them being scammers, right? They don't know about their own culture of scamming. They just have a stereotype of them being smart in school. Okay. This is part of the Nigerian scam. Come on.
So look at this, by the way. The number of African U.S. residents who immigrants from Africa. It's not. We're at like 2 million at this point. I mean, the numbers are just going. And you know, and 1 in 5 black people in the U.S. are immigrants from either Africa or the Caribbean.
So you guys all identify as African, and as maybe some of you as American at the end, smart? Yeah. I'm assuming you all identify as American as well, from Philly, right?
Well, hang on. Use the mic, dude.
Yeah, like so to answer your question, like I have multiple parts of my identity, and I identify with it, you know, in different ways.
You mean you're a fucking cosplayer with an identity crisis? The white boy just says straight up, hey, so you identify as an American? I mean, when you introduce yourself, you said you're from Philly. You didn't say you're from Nigeria. You said you're from Philly. So do you identify as an American? Oh, well, I've got multiple layers to my identity, so I identify in a multitude of ways. What the fuck does that mean? You're a cosplayer. You're a runner. You're a track star.
Like I have multiple parts of my identity, and I identify with it, you know, in different ways. But tell me a little bit about like what you're thinking behind your question.
So my question is kind of generic. How long do you have to be somewhere? How far down the line do you have to go that you no longer are part of where you're from, and you've now picked up a new identity? So my parents came from Greece, but I consider myself American first, Greek second. How long? So if I went to Africa, how long would I have to stay there and build a family and
Very great question. How long being in a new place until you have delineated from your previous heritage and then you now identify with your new country of origin? How long? And I bet you the Weasley African man is not going to give a straight answer. He's not going to tell us straight up, hey, how many generations of you guys being here until you fully try to adopt our native Black American heritage? I know we got the first generation. I know we got the second generation, but how many generations until you're really setting in on the cosplay? How long?
and you know, become part of the culture until I'm African, or am I never African and I'm always an outsider? Or do you guys always feel like outsiders and you never fully integrate into your new society? So for the rest of you there, do you guys you will always be African, or will you never truly feel I am now an American?
Excellent question. Will you always identify as African first, or at a certain point in time will you identify primarily as American? And let's see if the Weasley African man can give us a straight answer.
With African ancestry, but I'm American first.
Okay. Well, I actually have a question for you. Why do you identify as Greece first? Like, what experiences do you have that made you I mean, as an American first, Greece second?
Wow, look at the juvenile deflection tactics. He asked him a straight up question. How long till you identify as being an American? Well, you know what? Let me ask you a question first. What makes you identify as American first instead of Greece? Tell me about yourself and your psyche and your thought process before I answer that question.
Tell me a little bit about why you do that.
I say I'm American first because I was born here. I have an American passport.
Yeah.
I have American citizenship.
Yeah.
And I have been blessed to be born in this country, so I take pride in my country and my flag.
Yeah.
But I am very much Greek. My ethnicity is very much Greek. I trace half my lineage there. I experience a lot of the culture. My grandparents are very Greek.
Yeah.
My mom grew up half there, half here. I go there nearly every summer.
For sure.
I'm there all the time. But I take part in American culture
For sure.
because I'm around American culture more. It's kind of
Yeah.
hard to, partake in
What's American culture?
everything I experience.
Now the African ignorant ass motherfucker is gonna ask him what's American culture. Sir, he asked you a question. He asked you when you Africans are gonna start identifying as Americans, and so far you've asked him why he identifies as American first, and now you're giving him a fucking interrogation, asking him what American culture is. Are you ever gonna answer the question, African man?
every single day.
Like what? Like
football.
Dude, wait, hang on, hang on.
No,
Let's
I'm-
go
I'm just asking you questions.
No, this is a good
Penn
question.
State. Penn State's big.
No, these are good
university,
questions.
Football.
So
cars.
cars,
Food. Integration. All this thing. It's American.
So you're
first
like,
to me.
you're in it. Yeah?
I'm
This is-
as
this is why
American
you're
as
a
it gets.
Okay, no, I got that. So what is it but you guys, you're not, are you going to football games?
I just had.
Oh, you go to football. You're allowed to go to a football game? Your Here, listen, what's your parents' names?
My mom's name is Chizo and my dad's name is Ukwenga.
Yo, she should not be wasting her time at football games, all right? There's a lot of things that she could be doing instead of wasting her time at football games. So just, you need to talk to your daughter, all right?
Right.
So the question, I think what he's asking are some really
But I
good
got
questions.
one last question for him.
Yeah, go ahead.
So
he has another question. He's already deflected. Instead of answering the question, when are you going to identify as an American? He's asked the Greek guy 2 questions, and now he's going to ask him a 3rd question. And I bet you he ain't never going to answer the original question that was asked.
And what's your name? I didn't get your name.
Michael.
Michael.
It's a
All right. Can you
perfect
hand Michael the
American
mic?
name.
Michael, have you ever had an experience that made you feel? Michael, you ready? Have you ever had an experience that told you explicitly, subconsciously, or made you feel anything less than American?
Wow, he's taking a deflection to a whole new level. Wait a minute. I got a 3rd question. Have you ever feel or thought explicitly, had a notion, had something happen to where you didn't feel like you were in America? What the fuck is he talking about? Why, he's not even good at deflecting. What? Sir, he asked you a straight question. When are you going to identify as American first instead of African first? And this nigga is playing psychologist. Tell me on the doll, Michael, where the man touched you that night. Like what the fuck is he talking about? He's asking the Greek dude to define American culture. He's asking them why he identifies as American first. Now he's asking them if he's ever not felt American. What?
Have you ever had an experience that made you feel? Michael, you ready? Have you ever had an experience that told you explicitly, subconsciously, or made you feel anything less than American?
Whoa, that's a good question.
The very first time I told my friends what I call my grandparents.
Which is what?
So I never knew this. I just called. So Yaya Papu is Greek for grandma and grandpa. I called them that. I thought that was their names for like the first 5 years of my life.
Yeah, man.
When I found out it meant grandma, grandpa, I'm like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But when I first said that to my friends who are not who don't also have very ethnic upbringings,
Yeah.
they were like, that's the weird names.
That's weird.
Yeah, that's the very first time I was like, oh, I'm a little different.
You're a little different, but did it make you feel like?
Yes, Nick. The African was supposed to be answering a very simple question, but instead he's playing psychologist with the Greek man. He just totally flipped it, and now he's asking the Greek man a series of questions.
Like
you didn't belong.
That you didn't belong, that you're not American, that you don't belong in this country. Did it make you feel like that?
It made me feel that never made me feel like I didn't belong, but it made me have to explain myself.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you have to explain yourself often?
Yeah, can you answer my fucking question now? Bro, are you done asking me questions, African man? Do you want to answer my question?
Like why you do
when it
certain
comes-
things, like why, oh, food's a really good example.
Wait,
When
hang on though.
you-
I don't want to keep going too far because I
Yeah,
want to
yeah,
get
yeah.
to
No,
some
for
of the
sure. We
questions.
got more stuff.
No, but listen. No, but this is a really fascinating question for immigrants. At what point? Because it's really cool. Like Michael, what you're saying, like there's like this pride here, right? This pride in the culture. Pride is really instilled by your parents. Pride, and they're
So the white man is now just going to totally move the goalposts, and the African man is never going to have to answer the question. The African man was asked very specifically, how long until you Africans start identifying as American? And he just asked the Greek dude 3-4 questions, got all up into his psyche and his identity and his heritage. And now the white man's like, okay, so let's move on now.
other people who are from Greece, by the way, who are just like, I'm Greek first, and they were born here. They're Greek first, and they're like American second. It's all just depends on what your family, how they kind of wrap you in that pride. And but what you're getting at is that idea is like, wait, hang on a second though. How many of us have been told like, that we're kind of second class or something, right?
Yeah, it just stems from the fact, and I know that we have like other aspects to talk
Man, the white man is bailing out the Africans.
about, but I ask these questions, and it's important to ask these questions because it stems from the fact that it's not just a simple like, oh, the cultural upbringing determines like how you identify with a culture. There's other factors that impact it, right? Like for instance, like race, like I said, is separate than ethnicity, and it also impacts it, right? Like if you see something like perfectly like what's going on right now in
Yes, I apologize for the jump scare, but whenever we have an African on the screen babbling, that's the clip we play. This motherfucker's just babbling and babbling and babbling. Lord, oh Lord, what college is this?
right? Like if you see something like perfectly like what's going on right now in the media with when they're talking about Haitian immigrants. They're talking about them in such a negative light that they're basically
Because you guys are committing a lot of fucking crimes. Oh, look at the media. The media is talking about Haitian immigrants in such a negative light. And then here we have Haitian immigrants raping little girls.
Immigrant has been charged with raping a 15-year-old disabled girl at a Rockland hotel. The case already sparking outcry from local leaders. WBZ's Brandon Truitt is live in Rockland with what was revealed in court today. Brandon?
Well, Chris, the state started booking out all of the rooms in this hotel last year as a part of its emergency assistance shelter program. And authorities have confirmed to us that both the victim and suspect in this case lived here.
I have a patron, I don't know if he's a manager or National Guard, on the 911 line, 850 Hingham Street. It's going to be for the migrant section.
It was around 7 Wednesday night. Police records show a front desk worker called 911, reporting a 15-year-old disabled girl had been sexually assaulted.
Room 115. Meet the police. EMS response.
Police say they met the teenager in the lobby. Using multiple translators, she told authorities
Damn, but we're giving the Haitians a bad rap, y'all. We ain't even gonna talk about them eating pets and ducks and geese. We just gonna talk about them raping disabled 15-year-old girls, but we're giving them a bad rap.
man in the hotel brought her to his room to help her with an app on her tablet. Once there, he began having sex with her, the girl explained. According to the police report, the girl asked the man to leave her alone, but says that he wouldn't stop. She was ultimately taken to the hospital. Using a description of the man, police found their suspect in the room where the alleged rape happened. With enough evidence, police say they arrested 26-year-old Corey Alvarez. He was formally charged with rape of a child in Hingham District Court Thursday. Authorities say Alvarez moved here from Haiti and is part of the migrant system. Republican State Representative David DeCoste serves this district and says, I'm absolutely appalled by the incident that took place in Rockland. Above all, my heartfelt sympathies extend to the young girl who has reportedly been subjected to abuse.
Know about slavery, but few discuss paper genocide. We did not all come from Africa, and most of us have Aboriginal roots that were stripped away due to reclassification and miseducation. As a Native Black American and a member of the Muscogee Creek Nation, I understand the importance of tracing your lineage. If you want to learn how to trace your genealogy and apply for tribal citizenship, send an email to mike@keymediapro.com to schedule a consultation.
back to your country and get out of this country.
Yeah, think about
right?
it. Swarms of locusts, right? They're like the flood of all the negative terms that we're using for people who, by the way,
because immigration has been fairly negative. You guys are letting criminals come through our U.S.-Mexican border in mass. You guys are not fleeing here with women and children. These are single military-age adult men coming from third world destabilized regions.
Migrant encounters, they topped Bill 190,000
there's
people
There's a
in
selfie
December.
on another selfie. You see the wall in the distance, right?
Yeah.
So at some point they came through, whether there was a hole there or a gap in the wall, who knows? But they'll be processed, and very soon you're going to see our drone cameras overhead showing you where they assemble next.
Can I tell you something about that selfie? So last week we saw the reporter from Mexico, a journalist in Mexico, saying that this is happening a lot, that this is how they're communicating with their families back home. They send a selfie that says, I got here, and because they look like they're in pretty good shape, they think it's encouraging the family members to follow.
They're talking about them in such a negative light that they're basically saying,
they're
go back to your country and get out of this country.
Yeah, think about it. Swarms of locusts.
Yes, you guys are swarming to Western countries like locusts. Yes, you are. It's an invasion.
Right? They're like the flood of all the negative terms that we're using for people.
More than 200 African migrants have scaled the border fence into the Spanish enclave of Melilla. It's the biggest assault on the border in more than 8 years. The new arrivals, many from Cameroon and Guinea, headed towards the Migrant Reception Centre, celebrating touching European soil. The latest incursion at Melilla brings the number of migrants who've successfully scaled the fence to almost 600 so far this year.
Like the four of you, by the way, the Haitian.
Exactly.
Here, go. I want to go to this question from Germany. So this goes to you, Will. How did teaching change your views on fairness?
Axel, thank you so much for the question. So growing up, so I went to a Philly school. It was a city school. It wasn't the best funding, but it had some good funding. And then when I taught, I was actually in a really under-resourced school. And when I was in college, I already had the idea of like, oh, the world isn't fair. There's a lot of inequalities. But teaching, especially in a low-income community, it changed my view a lot, and it taught me.
Y'all, they got the tethers teaching our children in Philly, y'all. He done got rid of the African accent. He don't dress like an African. He probably don't eat no African cuisine. He eating Philly cheesesteaks and shit, cosplaying as one of us. And we would have never known, damn, that brother right there, Tyrone Smith, he really come from Africa.
Just how unfair and how unequal the world is. Like
in
you're
the
going
world
into
of education.
like I remember I was in this class a few years ago, and I was asking students in this class just what their school background was like. Like when I was teaching in the school that I was placed in, there was like no windows in the building, right? Like many people don't go to school like that if they're in well-funded areas. Like there was no gym, right? If you had to do gym in the cafeteria, right? So and it's just like really bad, and it's really unequal. And so teaching actually more so just taught me a little bit more how unequal the world is, and really what we need to do to really like fight for change.
Hey, I would gladly take an American ghetto over the poverty pimping going on in Africa.
He'll join the other 11,000 children who die daily of hunger-related diseases. Now, Joshua is not in some barren desert like the Sahara where there is no food. Literally a 5-minute walk up this hill, there's a small supermarket where you can buy as much food as you really want or would need. Joshua's issue is that he's an orphan. His guardian neighbor is trying to raise her own 3 children by herself and then also look after Joshua and his little sister. But she has no job.
Damn, now I see why when they come through our U.S.-Mexico border, they don't have no women nor children with them. They leave their asses on the continent of Africa, huh? I don't see not one child. I don't see no African women. But I see a whole lot of African men and a few South American men sprinkled in. Solo, Dolo, rockin' Montclairs and everything. Yeah, all right.
And even, you know, we go to just talking about Africa, right? So the 4 of you have an experience of Africa that's different than the experience of many Africans, because there is a lot of poverty in Africa and a lot of struggle. Is there another question from the stream? Stealing souls. Is there a commonplace belief in the diaspora across Africa? Let's just say across sub-Saharan Africa. Are there, the 4 of you know, you're all young, right? Will, you're a little less young, but are there any things when you have conversations with other African students, either back home or here at Penn State, when you're interacting with other African students who are maybe not necessarily Nigerian or Liberian or Sierra Leone, are there any commonplace beliefs, just common beliefs that you all share? Is there certain common things that you just are like, yeah? Do you feel like an affinity to a certain ideology or belief? And maybe the answer is no. It's fine if it's no, if nothing comes to mind.
They ain't gonna ask him about the tribalism and the xenophobia and the white worship. Hell no, Africans don't have a common belief or spiritual system. They're divided. They're warring with one another. The white man asked him, yeah, so do you guys have like a common belief across all Africans? Nope. No commonalities.
It's a really interesting question.
So a common belief?
Yeah, a common sense of like shared understanding of the world.
They all believe in worshiping the white man. That's the only common African belief, okay? That's the only common African belief. They worship the white man, and they will get on their knees to marry a European grandmother if that will get them to America.
Do you have your passport? Did you get your shots? Girl, would you like to come back with Rob to America? America. America, beautiful. Do you have your passport? Did you get your shot? Who wants to come back with us to America?
Oh, wait, guys, I thought of another common belief. There is a commonly held African belief that insects are the best cuisine. I mean, Africans are like Timon and Pumbaa with the shit.
Okay, yeah. Zisembe se wana wote kwa kamera tlave. Sembe za tlave.
It is a African belief that bugs are an excellent source of protein.
Linda, hangena kolis. Woo! Bosco eating insects. Oh my God.
Do you have anything or no? Would you say no? I mean, don't feel like you have to come up with something. Yeah? Nothing? Wait, no, hang on.
Go for it.
Andrew L., do you have anything?
When you said of the world, like respect can get you a long way, like respect.
Yeah. Yeah.
Showing respect to, especially people, not all the time, but people higher up than you.
Yeah. Elders.
Elders. Yeah, elders.
Is key.
Yeah. Yeah, they really push like anyone older than you. They don't have to be really.
And we had a Cash App that came through from Ashley and another one from Christopher. Thank you guys for supporting the broadcast and sliding something in the brown paper bag.
Brown paper bag. Brown paper bag.
To you or anything, but
Well,
anyone
here-
you meet that's older than you.
No, but here, this
respect.
is what, and then next person, right? So this is really big. Respect elders. This is really key across cultures, right? And all over the world, for sure. You know, it's breaking down in some ways in the West, but you know, for sure, I would say that. Yeah, deferring to parents, bro. You have a question?
Just speak? Okay. Have any of you felt or heard about in your families, felt any animosity from African Americans or the black community?
Damn, we got a room filled with Indians, Asians, and white folks, and they want to know nothing more than what Black American and African relations are like. I mean, I didn't know these Europeans were so invested. This man just asked them what? If the Africans have ever felt any animosity from Black Americans?
Have any of you felt or heard about in your families, felt any animosity from African Americans or the black community?
Yeah, any animosity or jealousy or from the African American communities, right? Who see you as somehow special or something? I don't know.
I ain't no African American motherfucker. They are.
Animosity? No, but kind of feeling left out, not being able to connect with them, just feeling like I could never belong in their community sometimes.
Yeah. Once they find out you're Nigerian?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Not Nigerian and also, yeah.
Nigerian and also, he was going to talk about how we don't accept him in our community because he's zesty as all hell. But then he said, no, I'll just keep my zestiness to myself. Peep body language, peep his words. He was about to say, because I'm Nigerian and I'm gee.
Just feeling like I could never belong in their community sometimes.
Yeah. Once they find out you're Nigerian?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Not Nigerian and also, I think just Nigerian.
Uh-huh.
It just feels like I don't know the norms of how to common things that they do. Nigerians probably don't do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
The culture here is different than Nigerian culture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you with your parents, right? You must have Black American friends who are like, wait, your parents won't let you what?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Sorry, you said?
Yeah, feeling not.
Animosity. Okay, because I would agree with the animosity in a sense that we don't share the same history.
Uh-huh.
Because at least as far as I know, my ancestry, I don't most Africans don't trace it to the slavery.
No, you guys were the slave masters, not the slaves.
To America.
Uh-huh.
Whereas Black Americans here trace their ancestry back to slavery. So I would say in a sense that.
And I hear Black Americans sometimes say, look, you didn't go through this. Your family didn't go through what my family went.
Oh, yes, white man. You've heard Black Americans tell Africans, your family hasn't gone through what my family has. Okay, white man.
Went through. And so somehow you're special or you escaped something. And that's kind of a source of animosity of some sort. Yeah. Uh-huh. Dude, that's a good question, by the way. Yeah.
Did you say your name?
My name's Allie. I was wondering what your thoughts on colorism in Africa was, because I feel like that's something that's really relevant.
Colorism in Africa. Yeah. Yeah.
And Becky's coming through inquiring about colorism in Africa. Yeah. The Africans earlier said that they're not racist. There's no racism in Africa, but you guys are colorist as a motherfucker. If you don't bleach your skin to look white, then you are discriminated against.
Are you, how about in Nigeria? So you're lighter skin.
Yes. So in Nigeria, most people are, some people are like lighter skin, some people are darker skin.
The wealthier people are going to be a little lighter on average.
Yes, but I don't know. I don't know. I feel like at least in my experience, I feel like the people that are older than me, like my grandma and, you know, like my great grandma, they would prefer me to be darker. Like my grandma has told me, like, because my grandma lives with me, and she, like when I was younger, 'cause I was really light when I was younger, and she told me that I should start drinking more chocolate milk so my skin could be darker.
Is that how it works?
Yeah, no.
Any science, any chemistry majors out there? Wait, so if you brought home you brought home Will as your boyfriend. Look at this beautiful, handsome, dark-skinned man. Not your parents. I don't want to throw your parents under the bus. But other Nigerians in your community, you got Will or you got, well, we could do Marvelous. So you're a lot lighter than Will, but like, you bring Will home, man.
Well, my parents wouldn't care. They don't care, but my grandma would like be like, oh, like they prefer Will. She prefer Will.
She prefer. Listen, man. What are some things that you wish people knew about Africa? About your culture. Let me stick with your culture. But if you want to express it out, you know, as kind of representatives of a continent, which is really hard to do, but go ahead.
Sorry. I feel like when people think of Africa, they think of like dirt and like poor people, I feel like. Whereas at least where my family's from, it's not all of that. Like my family that lives in Nigeria, they all have these like huge mansion houses. They have drivers, maids, people.
Ma'am, we all know that the majority of the Africans that migrate here legally come from the elitist criminal bourgeoisie class that sells out the rest of the African population. By and large, Africa is a shithole. Just because there's some parts on the continent where a nigga got a mansion doesn't mean by and large Africa is not a shithole. That's like saying, oh no, American ghettos aren't that bad because there's a black guy living in Beverly Hills somewhere. Like, no, it doesn't work that way. We get it. You're the bourgeoisie, elitist, buck-broken kids of Africans that have sold out to the CIA and French oil companies and shit. And you want everybody to not think of Africa as so poor because you're a rich, elite African who got to travel and migrate to America. Man, by and large, you guys are down fucking bad. For every African that lives in a mansion, there's 1 million of y'all eating cow ass.
This kind of activity is
For every African that has a driver and a chauffeur and goes to private school, there's 1 million of y'all taking golden showers. Yeah, they don't want to talk about this, do they?
At least
They just want us to think that Africans are just living in mansions because 1% of them are.
where my family's from, it's not all of that. Like my family that lives in Nigeria, they all have these like huge mansion houses. They have drivers, maids, people to, you know, water their garden, like kill their goats, stuff like that. So,
So you wish that people didn't automatically equate Africa with poverty.
But Africa is in poverty, so why don't you fix your country's poverty condition instead of fleeing to my country talking down on us. How about that? How about if you don't want Africa to be stigmatized with poverty, you fix those economic conditions instead of fleeing out west? But guys, don't touch that dial. As soon as this broadcast ends, it's going to push you into the next one. On the next stream, we're going to be reacting to Kamala Harris's latest Fox TV interview. Yeah, she's officially not going to be president after this, guys. So let's go ahead and take a look. Don't touch that dial.
They don't want you to remember this. You not no slave, you indigenous. Fuck how they painted them Indians. You went to war with the French and the British men. Quite frankly, you was kings, Merovingians. They took the women and men, made them prisoners. Raised up the children to worship their images. Set up a lab to the genes and they mixed them. And this shit get way deeper than your pigment.